Previously on The Friendly Men.
Hey, ladies and gentlemen, one of my favorite bands of all time, probably the most influential band in my life, the Ramones. We've got one of them, CJ Ramone. Now, normally the Friendly Men is Mark and James, but today it's me, CJ, James, and Anthony. So first and foremost, CJ, how are you?
I'm doing all right. How's it going, guys?
First, I would like to say that the Ramones are my favorite band of all time. What's your favorite album? CJ, what's your favorite Ramones album?
It's probably Rocket to Russia. Leave Home. Leave Home. Rock. I'm a lot older than you, brother. So like the stuff that I listened to when I was between 14 and 17, like nothing will ever change that. That shit will always be my favorite, like without a doubt. It's got to do with like, you know, the hormones kicking in, you know, you discovering yourself, you're finding things that aren't influenced by your mom and dad or your older brothers and sisters. Like you're finding your own stuff. So those, you know, Leave Home, Rocket to Russia, probably my two favorites. But the thing is, right, is there's an interesting piece of Ramones history that was I observed, figured out kind of on my own, right, before I was in the band. So if you look at the Ramones' career and the quality of their records, right, and you deconstruct it, you go backwards, right, it seems like it kind of flows with an arc that most bands do, right? But there's some really hidden stuff in there that isn't so obvious, right? So Tommy's last record is Rocket to Russia, right? Mark comes in on Road to Ruin, right?
Right. And then there was End of the Century.
Right. So the last record that Tommy works on is Road to Ruin. The first record the Ramones put out that is not great, side for side, 100% killer and no filler. End of the Century, the first one.
End of the Century is actually my favorite. End of the Century was made by Phil Spector. How is that not a great album?
Right, but this is something you have to understand, and this is why I don't consider it. I almost don't consider it to be a Ramones record. None of the Ramones play on it.
So it's
Johnny,
all Phil, right?
Yep. Johnny couldn't deal with Phil Spector. Mark at that point was really having problems with the drink.
Sure.
And Dee Dee just, was Dee Dee. It's basically Phil Spector, Joey Ramone record. And when you so knowing that now, when you go back and listen to it, you'll hear it differently. I guarantee you'll hear that record differently.
Well, yeah, because he had trumpets and all that other ridiculous shit that Johnny was totally against. Johnny was totally against the trumpets, the whole background stuff that Phil added. He was all against that stuff, but Phil still added it anyways.
Even if you listen to the guitars, the sounds, listen to the drums, that's obviously not Mark playing on the drums.
We never talked about Mondo Bizarro or Acid Eaters. What was it like recording in the studio with those guys? Like, recording them on stage, it's different than recording in the studio.
Yeah, so recording was complicated. Johnny, so Mark is like a real perfectionist. Mark is like, he's a real perfectionist. So, we would do multiple takes of every song, and Johnny would just not have the patience for it. So it would be like me and Mark just playing through the songs until Mark got a drum line that he liked. But it was that Mondo Bizarro record, that's when I really I felt like I'm really contributing now, besides being a bass player. Because I got all the demo tapes, I learned I had to learn all the vocal lines because Joey didn't come to practices or rehearsals for records. So I had to learn the bass lines, the guitar lines, and the vocal lines. And then we get together, practice. I'd show John the guitar lines, and then I would sing everything. And then, like I said, when we went to the studio, John wouldn't want to play multiple takes, so I would just stand there and do multiple takes with Mark. So that was like when I really felt like, I'm really contributing now. I'm not just, Dee Dee's replacement. Like I'm doing things that Dee Dee didn't do in the band. I'm contributing, because I tried writing songs, but I mean, it's just massively intimidating. Like,
Well, what about when you had to record Dee Dee's songs, like The Crusher?
I loved it. It was, brother, I mean, like I said, there's just nothing else in my life I'll ever do that'll top it. It was so bizarre. Like, Armando Bizarro, I didn't think I was singing any songs on the record. It was after Joey heard me singing on the tapes from rehearsal for him to learn, that when he came down, him and Johnny got together and they were like, yeah, he should sing these two songs. I sang Strength to Endure and Main Man.
Nice.
I was so blown away that I was going to sing a song on a Ramones record, and it was my first studio record with them, and I was like, not just one song, but two, and both of them written by Dee Dee, and I was like, holy shit. I just couldn't believe it. And so, we did the recording, and so I immediately was like curious as to how people would react to it, So the best thing was I read this one, somebody actually sent it to me. I think a publicist sent it to me, and she was like, oh, the record got a review in Rolling Stone magazine. They mentioned your vocals, and I was like, oh yeah, what did they say? She was like, here, read it. So I read it, and the guy like totally panned me and was like, he sounds like the singer from Steppenwolf and blah 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 and all shit. Like, I don't think that dude ever listened to it. He probably never fucking heard it. You know what I mean? Immediately I was like, no, I don't sound like that guy. This dude didn't hear it. But it was it was such a cool experience, like to get to do that, to be that big a part of it, to figure out the songs and to sing two songs on the record, and and to going through all the rehearsals and really being part of it. That's when I really kind of felt like I'm contributing. I'm really putting something into the band, and it really felt good at that point.
So at that point, you said, instead of my last name being Ward, it's going to be Ramones.
No, that was required from Jump. That was required from Jump. In fact, so after I got out of the brig, the first rehearsal I had with the band, we had just finished rehearsal. Arturo Vega was there, and Johnny was like, all right, so you have to have a Ramone name. It's got to be a Y name. I was like, well, you ain't gonna call me Chrissy Ramone.
Right.
And, I still had my dog tags. I still had my dog tags around my neck, and Arturo Vega looked at my dog tags, and my dog tag said CJ Ward, right? That's Christopher Joseph, right? So he was like, CJ sounds good, and Johnny was like, yeah, I like it. Okay, CJ. So at the time I didn't realize it, but it was like Dee Dee. So that's why on the first shirts that Arturo made, it's spelled CEEJAY, because he didn't want to change the spacing on the what do you call it for the D
on the seal.
And so it was CEEJAY. But later on, of course, after like the first year, he started just C period J period.
Here's something I want to talk about. I love the Ramones Raw video. Those South American shows, man. What was it like being in a bus with? And Johnny sounded really angry. He's like, "Very good planning, Monty. Very good planning." Like, what was that? How did you get out of those situations of crazy ass fans following you all over the street and running at you? How did you get out of those situations?
We had some crazy ass security guys, man.
Don't kill no fans. Oh my God. No fans. George like the bull. Oh shit. Hey the heck. Hey. Jesus Christ.
I mean, like big, scary dudes. Like big, scary dudes. We had one situation in that famous thing from that video with the van pulling down the street, right? And everyone pounding on the windows. I don't know if you see it in the video, but at one point this truck, one of the kids' dads owned a construction company, and they pulled a truck in front of us to block the street. Well, our security guy jumped out with a big old snub-nosed 38 and pointed it at the truck.
Jesus Christ.
But we had some serious security guys that got us out of some really bad situations. We had professional drivers because we would get stuck in traffic and couldn't get away from them. We had guys that were like professional drivers that would get us out of all those bad situations. And of course, you know, down there, like, you know, people get kidnapped all the time.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
That's like a legitimate way to make a living down there, you know? So, it like a couple of times we actually had guys that sat on chairs outside of our hotel room doors while we were over there. So it was wild.
CJ, forgive me to interrupt. In that video, one of my favorite things is Johnny's yelling at Monty, Marky looks upset, Joey looks frantic, and you're smiling from ear to ear. You're enjoying every second of being swarmed by these South American fans.
Yep. I love chaos. I just loved it. I was like, I loved it. And I mean, at any second, they could have blasted right through them windows. They were pounding. They were trying to break them windows out. And the funny thing is, Mark Ramone, I got to say, like, you want to talk about a guy that could like make you laugh in the worst situations. As they pound on the glass, Mark is like, what do they want from us? Like, what are they going to do? Get in here. I just started out, like, literally, like, you know, that's like a legitimate thing. Like, wait, if they get in here, like, what are they going to do? I had one situation. This is probably about, I'm going to say 2013 or 2014. I was doing a solo tour down there. I was playing at this great place called Teatro Flores. It's like a theater-sized place. And we were just having a great night. The fans were going crazy. It was sold-out show. And I drank like 3 bottles of wine on stage. And I was hammered.
No coffee?
And my manager, Gene the cop, who was Johnny's right-hand guy for years, Gene became, you know, Gene's the guy that got me back out on the road. He became my guy. I turned around, I looked at him, I took my bass off, I threw it to him, and I ran and I dove into the crowd. Well, let me tell you, literally within 2 minutes, I thought I was going to die. At first, they were just ripping my clothes off, like literally ripping my clothes off. But then I ended up on the floor with people on top of me. And I was like, all of a sudden, the crowd parts like Moses parting the Red Sea. And all I see is Gene's big Irish head, and he's just throwing punches, and the whole crowd is just parting. He grabs me, lifts me up off the floor, runs me over to the stage, throws me up on the stage, and then walks around and gets up. And he was like, don't ever do that again. But that's literally like, they just rip you to shreds.
That's insane.
So now, CJ, you are the only person ever in Simpsons history to ever call Mr. Burns a dull bastard. How did that come about?
Go to hell, you old bastard.
Yeah, so that was realistically, that was like the high point of my career. You know, I got to curse on primetime TV. 12-year-old CJ was like, yeah. But we actually got asked to do the show, and just so you know how big a fan I was of The Simpsons, So, you know, everyone knows about the Ramones 15-passenger van, right? We lived in it. We always toured in it. Never traveled on a tour bus, at least not while I was there. So in my row, I had a bunch of I had it decorated like if it was my apartment. And one of the things I had hanging up was an air freshener with Bart Simpson on it. So they knew that the guys in the band all knew I was a big fan. So when we got asked to do it, I was like, oh my God, that's so cool. So what they did was they had somebody from the show come out. I can't remember who it was, if it was somebody from production or something. They came out. We went into a recording studio. I think it was Baby Monster in Manhattan. And they gave us each a line to say. So, you know, it's not like I ad-lib anything, but I just thought it was so cool. Out of all the lines that I got to say, "Go to hell, you old bastard," and that particular episode, I think that was the Rosebud episode.
Yep.
I think that's the one it was. It's the most popular episodes they ever made, and as it turned out, it was my absolute favorite episode too. So. Yeah, that was. I mean, other than having, you know, Lemmy mention me in the song Ramones, I mean, those got to be like kind of like my two high watermarks in my career.
Your first time on stage with the Ramones was September 4th, 1989, and it was a Jerry Lewis NDA telethon. Did you get to meet the one and only Jerry Lewis?
I think we passed him in the hallway going through, but you know, I didn't actually get to shake his hand or anything like that. But I mean, you know, funny enough, like especially if you're from New York, that's like a major event, the Jerry Lewis telethon. You know what I mean? I'm sure kids these days are like, "What the hell is a telethon?" But back then, it was actually like a big event, and especially like because. You know, my parents would get all excited about it, like all the old timers would gather around the TV. So it was actually kind of cool. And I mean, when we filmed that, I was only out of jail for probably 72 hours. I mean, I had just gotten out, literally just gotten out. My head was shaven. That's why I had the bandana on and all that stuff. So yeah, that's a good memory.
So everyone has a favorite Ramone. Well, I have a personal favorite Ramone. My favorite Ramone was Gilbert Ramone.
Gilbert Ramone of the Ramones. If you have a thinking problem, get help. If you don't think, don't start.
What was it like working with Gilbert Ramone? And, you did a volleyball match with girls
Up all night.
Up all night? Yeah, what was that like?
So there's one part in that was really fun. We played volleyball with a bunch of strippers, I think it was something. And, yeah, we were, you know, filming all this different stuff. But one of the skits we were filming, we were riding around in one of those double-decker buses with no top.
Yeah, I saw that. And he's singing 99 bottles of beer on the wall.
Yeah. So they were giving us water balloons to throw, but like, no, everyone kind of felt like afraid to do it. So we were going by this one corner, and there's this dude standing on the corner, and I threw the water balloon, hit him in the head, soaked him, you know. Everyone busted out laughing, and I think they actually included that on the in the video, but they do it like right at like just before a break or something like that, so you don't really actually see what's going on. But that day was pretty fun. That was kind of like it was just like a goofball day. But Gilbert Gottfried, that dude is funny, man. That guy, he is funny, boy. In person, like off the cuff stuff, he knows how to bust it out.
You guys were on Howard Stern, and Howard Stern tried to conjure up controversy between Joey and Marky because of something that Marky said on the internet. And you were right dab square in the middle of the whole thing, and Howard tried to make Johnny and Joey look at each other.
Yeah.
What was that like, spectating this incident? Because this is on national radio and TV. What was that like?
So you gotta rewind a little bit, right, and go back to the first time we were on the Howard Stern show together, right? So huge Howard Stern fan, right? Growing up in New York, everyone listened to Howard Stern, right? I was a huge Howard Stern fan. But I knew how Howard was, and I know how he sets people up, you know, when they're on the show. So we get there, and, you know, and they're like, and Howard Stern's like, hey, it's the Ramones. Hey, yeah, how's it going? You know, blah, 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 blah. So I'm looking for an opportunity, right? I'm looking for an opportunity to make sure that he knows that I ain't gonna let him fuck with the Ramones, right? So he goes, Joey Ramone. He goes, hey, Joey, you know, everyone says that me and you could be brothers, that we look alike. So Howard was sitting there, and he was wearing this like St. Mark's Place, like touristy shirt. It had a pistol on it, and it said New York City, it ain't Kansas. So I went right for it, and I went, yeah, but Joey wouldn't wear a tacky t-shirt like that. Everybody got quiet. Like, literally everything stopped for like 10-15 seconds. I just looked at him like, you're on fucking notice. Don't fuck with my guy. You know what I mean? Like,
not only you told Mr. Burns an old bastard, but you shut up Howard Stern, which is the impossible. You've done a lot of great things in your career, man.
So during that interview, I realized, like, this is just going to be a total free-for-all. It's going to be a total free-for-all. I don't even think I said much. I think I probably spoke twice during the whole interview, because this is the thing that bothered me, right? 7 years I was in the band. Nobody ever talked shit about each other in the press. Nobody ever complained about, I mean, there were like little jabs here and there, you know, well, he likes to do this, I like to do that, blah, blah. But they never aired their dirty laundry. They never, like, you know, there was never any personal attacks and stuff like that. And that was part of being in the Ramones, right? It's like being in the Mafia. You know what I mean?
It's funny you say that, because no one knew that Johnny had stolen Joey's girl. No one knew that.
Nobody knew any of this stuff. And so that after that so prior to that, Joey and Mark had been on Howard Stern call-in and went after each other. You wear a wig, oh yeah, well you have OCD, oh yeah, well you're ugly, blah, blah, you know what I mean? And it was you know, to me I was just like, man, why'd you spend 22 years, you know, like keeping your mouth shut and doing the right thing, and then just blow it, you know what I mean? So when we got on that show, kind of the cat was already out of the bag, and I just showed up, you know, just because they asked me to come, but I really didn't have much to say about it. I knew what it was going to be, and I was just sitting there like, oh man. You know, it was like, well, after all that time for them to do that, because that was one thing I always found cool about the Ramones. Like, when I was a fan, like, I couldn't even imagine what the Ramones did when they were off stage. Like, I couldn't picture them doing anything but being rock stars, you know what I mean? Like, being the Ramones. Like I could see them all hanging out in the corner together or something, but I couldn't imagine them, like, grocery shopping or, like, you know, buying sneakers or something, you know? And they kept that mystique about them like the old bands used to do, right? Nobody ever knew what Led Zeppelin did or what, you know, the Rolling Stones did or what Elvis did, you know what I mean? Nobody knew any of that. And I always kind of appreciate that. So when they got on the radio and just started blowing it up, I was like, man, this is such a mistake. But, you know, I guess after 22 years of riding in bands together, hating the shit out of each other, it felt good to get a little, get it off their chest. But really what triggered it was when we were doing the final shows of Lollapalooza, we got an offer from a promoter in South America to go down there, 4 shows, $1 million, $250,000 each.
Wow.
So
and Joey was sick, right?
Yeah, so I you know, on Lollapalooza, like I said, I was on my motorcycle, so I didn't really see the guys much. A couple minutes before the show, a couple minutes after. So I I got to the site one day. I walked into the dressing room, yelling, screaming. Joey turns around to me and he goes, CJ, would you be mad at me if I say I don't want to go do the shows in South America? So I said, hey, Joey, you gave him 22 years. You don't want to go, don't go. But I answered Joey as a friend, not as a business partner. You know what I mean? Because, you know, Joey was my friend. He was my boss, but he was my friend too, you know? And Joey was diagnosed in '94, so I had already known that he was sick and just dragging himself through the last 2 years of touring. You know, I knew he was sick. But him turning that down is what started all the fighting, all the, you know, all the back and forth, all the, you know, the real vitriol, you know, all the real heavy stuff. But and that's why him and Mark really went at it hard. You know, Mark was pissed. $250,000, it's a lot of money to lose, to walk away from, you know. And I really don't blame Mark for being mad. That's something to be pissed off about. You know, somebody takes that out of your pocket. That's not a, you know, that don't happen every day. But at the same time, you know, I'd give up a $250,000 to have Joey here now. You know what I mean? So at the time, I was like, Joey, you don't want to go? Don't go, brother.
I know. I think Ben told me this a long time about you guys. It was like when you guys would tour like Europe, you guys would never want to go to like really expensive restaurants. It was always McDonald's or Burger King, even overseas, right?
Brother, the big joke was we get into the band after the show. Monty, take us to the Golden Arches. Or the American Embassy. The American Embassy, that was the other name for it.
Oh, wow.
I'll tell you a funny story, and this is the honest to God truth. We played in France. We played at a club, I think it was called the Rolling Stone, and the promoter had a really good night. So Monty says to us, hey, look, the promoter booked us a meal in a very special restaurant here. He wants to take us out for a meal. And Johnny was like, yeah, okay, fine. So we go to this restaurant. It's, you know, it's French food, and we go in and they take us upstairs to like this, you know, private room and everything. And it's obviously a very old place, and it's not like overly like nice or anything, but you could tell it's like good quality place, you know? So we go in and Johnny's like, where's the menus, Monty? And they're like, no, that they ordered the food for you. They want you to have, you know, like, so the first thing they come out with is like a bowl of soup, and it looks like fucking dirty water. Like literally, it looks like dirty water, and it's almost like just a broth, you know. So everybody takes a spoonful, and I look up and I see Johnny's face, and he goes, waves Monty over. He's like, ask them if they can make a hamburger. The promoter was so mortified, he left. He didn't even stay there with us. He asked them to make us, you know, something different, and he left. He was so mad. But that's like not. And Johnny wasn't doing it to be an asshole. He was just like, I need something that I need comfort food. I need something that I like. You know what I mean?
The very last show.
Yeah.
You know, was it 1996 or 1994? I'm sorry, of the Adios Amigos. Eddie Vedder did the last song with you, and as I'm led to believe, he, you know, followed you on the tour the whole time.
Yeah.
Like, was that cool for you that Eddie Vedder sang the last Ramone song?
CJ Ramone.